All right, today's plan of attack is I'm going to pull these metering rods out, measure them. I have a couple of kits here with some different metering rods, and I'll try that first before I go and swap this carburetor out. So let's get to work. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this lid with this lid. So this will give me, that's perfect. The stud's a little short, but we'll figure that out. That'll give me an open element and it's going to be worth at least 60 horsepower. So put that on, and in the meantime, let's get these metering rods out of there. Okay, we'll take one off here. All right, let's go see what we're dealing with here. All right, so here's a kit I have. So I've got a 70 by 37. 73 by 42 and 73 by 47. So 70 is this part and 37 would be this part. So let's see what these measure compared to the richest one I have, which would be the 70-37. So and I got okay, it is. So this is a little thinner. So we're going to try these and see how that goes. So the way you do that is, really helps if you have a magnifying glass, but there is a spring and all that does is basically push up on the rod, on this part of the rod right there. This one will go in. And you just hook it on there. Okay, so that's that one. I'm going to grab the other one. We'll change that out and then we'll take it from there. Okay, we'll do the second one here. Very easy to do. There, that's it. Okay, so we'll go and install these in the van and the end carburetor and then go for a burn. Okay. Okay, so the metering rods are in. Now I'm just going to get the new not new, but new, get the air cleaner on here. Now, oops, I gotta put the spacer. Air cleaner. I gotta hook the hose up here because there's nothing holding this in but the hose, so we'll get that on there. Not that it's gonna do anything. Now we'll take the stud, which I just had here. There it is. I'm gonna put this in here. Take the lid, air filter, put that in, and then this, all nice and clean. There, perfect fit. Now, it's an extra 45 to 80 horsepower with that. Which I don't think would be truly accurate, but okay. Now, the only other thing I'm going to do here is I unhook the choke, but the choke plate is still kind of moving around, so I'm going to lock it out with a tie strap so that it doesn't move, and then we'll go for a drive. So stay tuned. Okay, so I got the choke tied off right here with a tie strap. I don't know if you can see that or not, but hopefully that'll hold. The other thing I noticed is missing a bolt here on the where is it? Right there, on the transmission mount, right there. So I'm going to put a bolt in there. And there we go. We'll zap that on. Bolt might be a little too long. There we go. There. So now the transmission won't follow it. Okay, let's go for a drive. change to even a stiffer spring. I got some springs in that kit. Maybe we'll change them out. Let's go around the block here. All right, I'm going to use this carburetor here. So this is on my 65 Beaumont Sport Deluxe. Waiting for me to put that tranny in there. What ain't going to happen for a bit because I'm just not motivated to do it. But the way I see it right now is I can mess around with jetting and all that kind of shit with the one carburetor that's on the engine on the van. I'm going to verify whether it's an engine or at least a carburetor issue as opposed to a tuning issue. I still think it's dirt in there. This is all unbolted, ready to come off, so we'll get that off, and then I'm going to pull the step-up spring, step-up metering rods there and see what we got, what we're dealing with there. So the ones that are in, were in the current carburetor on the van are the stock metering rods. So that engine or carburetor has not been messed with. So I still think there's some dirt in there. But anyhow, let's get that off and then we'll move on from there. All right, we got it set on some bolts here, so we can set it even. Let's get the lid off. All right, let's see what we're dealing with here. I can't remember what I have in here. I'm pretty sure I've tuned it up. But it's been a while. And I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see where shit. There we go. Now, because this has very low vacuum, I have very light springs in here, so they're not even strong enough to pop out. So, the step-up springs, if you run low vacuum, because this engine is a 406 small block Chevy. It runs about, I don't know, 6 or 7 inches of vacuum. It's 570 horsepower, fairly big cam. So it runs fairly low vacuum, and if you run too heavy of a spring, then the step up will always, it'll never suck it down when you're at idle, and you'll always be running rich. So I put light springs in here. So that when it is at idle, it will go down and it will run on the idle circuit or on the fatter part. So it'll run on this part of the metering rod as opposed to this being out. So this will be in the jet here, at idle or low load and then come out. So these are fairly light. So I'm going to have to change these to what I have in that carburetor there. But let's just see what I have. It's actually, so I have 7047. So that's probably what came with this thing, with this carburetor. Sorry, 7042. So I'm going to leave the rods. I'm not going to change the metering rods, but I am going to change those springs when I get the carb out. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this in and just run it as is. Then I'm going to swap the setup from that carb into this one and see what the difference is. I just want to do carb to carb because I know there's no issue with this one. This thing runs good, it runs strong, so yeah, so that's what I'm going to wind up doing. So this is not going to happen today. This is going to be a tomorrow project, actually a Monday project. So we'll catch up when life gets to that point. All right, we're a few days later, and we're going to tackle the carburetor on this thing. We're going to swap that out with the other one. So first step is get this off, and then we'll unhook the linkage and change her out. You'll notice you may not notice, but I changed the wires out. These are Taylor Spyro Pro 8mm that I've probably had for 10 years and probably have all of 100 miles on them. So let's get that air filter assembly off, and then we'll get cracking. All right. Just put those things where you can find them. So let's see here, we're going to disconnect the fuel filter here, or fuel line there. That'll be 1/4 inch, I believe. Now, I haven't driven this for a couple of days, so I'm hoping that the fuel is drained out of here. Boy, that's on tight. Okay, that's not going anywhere easy, and I don't want to wreck it, so I'm gonna undo the fuel line connection here instead. So gotta get a wrench for that. Oh, you can see there. See where I'm working. I'm gonna use a pair of pliers to wiggle this off. It's easier. I'll change. There we go. Spread some fuel. I'll change this out when I get it off. Actually, that's probably going to have to come off now because I got the tranny line there. I'll show you. And it won't clear, so 11/16 should do the trick here. Yeah. Okay, so get this out of the way. Okay. Get this off. All right, and then it's just a matter of undoing 2 bolts here, 2 bolts on the front. Throttle linkage, which is just held on by a cotter pin, and tranny kick down, which is just slide off, and then this thing is off. So then I'm going to take this out so I don't put that in my eye, this here, because that would hurt. All right, we'll catch up here in a couple minutes or an hour or however long this is going to take. Should be straightforward, but you know how those things go. So catch up in a few minutes. Okay, carburetor is ready to come off. I think I got everything unhooked. Pretty straightforward. So let's just slide this out. I got my PCV line here. This. There we go. All right, so there it is. I'm gonna put the other one on, and then we're gonna take this apart and see what's in it. First, I'm gonna put that one on, make it run, and then see where, yeah, take that apart, pull the lid off, and see what's inside there. So I do need a gasket. That one's stuck on there, so I'm not going to try and peel that off. So I'm going to go grab a gasket here, and thankfully I have lots. So catch up in a minute. All right, here's the 2 carbs. This is what's going on. This is what came off. So what I have to do here is I got to get the PCV, or this, not the PCV, this is PCV here, but get the brake booster line off of here. I don't have one on this because it's manual brakes. So what I gotta do is I gotta get this plug out. I already got a Allen key there. Just gotta grab my wrench. This out. There, and I'm thinking I need a 5/8 wrench here, so just give me one sec here. All right, 9/16. Okay, so definitely want to put Teflon tape on here, or PSD. I don't think I have Teflon tape, or a PSD, but I do have Teflon tape around here somewhere, so I'm going to do that. Catch up in a sec. All right, so we'll just do don't need much. Okay, that's it for there. I'll go in here. So this is a manual choke, Carb 1405 versus 1406. So other than no choke, it's pretty much the same carburetor, same CFM and all that kind of good stuff. More. Okay, so that's tight. Now let's spin around. Okay, do that. I gotta get the. This is for the PCV, so I gotta get the PCV off of here. hose, but I don't think it's leaking. And I don't have any other hose that'll work with this. So get that on there. I'm going to put it. All right. Unhook it, if I have to unhook it in the vehicle. Okay, so that's not going anywhere. The other thing I got to change is this fitting here to this fitting. So you can see here, may work, but I'm not going to chance it. This has got a A&N fitting. This one has an A&N fitting too, but I don't know that it's the same thread and same size. It looks like it. Don't want to have any leaks, so I'm going to get this off, which I will need a 3/4 inch wrench. Easy enough. This is going to be a little smaller, I think. No, it's 3/4 2. It's probably the same fitting, but no sense in messing around with it. You don't have to go super tight with these, but snug is good. All right, I'm going to put this in here so I don't lose anything. Got my fittings from that part. I'll put them on this one for now. There you go. Now it's ready. Give it a shot. Let's get it on there. All right, so first gasket I had just had the single pattern. This you need the dual pattern because the bolts go through these outer ones. And that doesn't fit, so that goes there. Let her rip, see what happens. So catch up in a few minutes. Okay, bolts are in, just snugging them down. I always like to cross thread them like that. In an X, not cross thread them, but do it in an X pattern. on that side. This isn't tightening down. Doesn't appear to be stripped. Well, let's try it again. Okay, have I got the right? Yeah. Okay, so that's something's going on there. I'm gonna get a stud. I didn't notice anything untoward when I undid this thing, but I think what potentially happened here is it might have stripped out, whoever did this conversion, although the threads look fine here. Usually if that's the case, you'll see remnants of threads on the actual bolt. All right, I'm gonna grab a stud here and see if we can make this work. Okay, I did find a long stud that'll work. I'm just gonna snug this down. There, okay. Now, get the fuel line here. This is the one. Just like this. Okay, do this. Okay, now all I got to do is hook up the kick down, which I don't have. I got to change that out, and I got to check the throttle linkage here. I have to swap the throttle linkage out from the other one, so a little bit more work. Stay tuned. All right, so this is the throttle connector. All right, moment of truth here. Ready to fire it up. This is on. PCV valve is in. So just to double check. Oh, see, I would have a major vacuum leak here. So I forgot to hook this up. Okay. So. So that's on there. That's good. Fuel is tight. Vacuum line's on there. PCV valve is there. Throttle's hooked up. Now we just got to fill the carb up with fuel. So it's going to take a little bit of cranking to do this, but let's get her going. this video. The next one there, we'll get into the carburetor. See what we find in there. So, thanks for watching and stay tuned for part 3. I gotta say, I'm happy that this did work though. If it didn't, then I would have been not as happy. So anyhow, stay tuned for part 3, and thanks for watching, and hit subscribe and all that good stuff.